Hi, you four. Welcome to your class text today for Friday, the 5th of February. Yesterday, we were reading a book called Escape from Pompeii. And Pompeii was it was a city within the Roman Empire, and it suffered a pretty horrific fate after a local or a nearby volcano called Mount Vesuvius erupted. Um, so let's continue with our story. I'm going to share the screen so you can see. I'll make that a bit bigger because I can't even read that. Okay, right. So far we Torino has run back to his friend Lavia, uh, trying to find out what is going on. Um, and they were able to leave, and they were able to get onto a boat, um, and they were able to get away. Now, when Torino and Lavia woke up and looked out, they were horrified. Pompeii was getting farther and farther away. The sky was now thick with pumice and when black with ash. Pumice is a type of chemical that is released from volcanoes. Tranino, I can't breathe in the back of my throat. As she spoke, Livia started to choke. The children could hear dogs barking and people's muffled screams as they ran, gasping for air with rags covering their mouths or pillows over their heads. Some people fell to the grumbling, trembling sound. And then in one terrible, endless moment, they heard mighty Mount Vesuvius roar. Its top exploded in a scream, and flames ripped upward to the sky. A massive cloud of silver ash rose to the heavens, twisting and bubbling in all directions until everything was in total darkness. Lightning flashed and thundered roared. Streams of molten liquid flowed in fast rivers down the mountain slopes and covered a nearby town. The walls, streets, and gardens of their beloved Pompeii disappeared underneath a blanket of ash and stones. Before their very eyes, everything and everyone that they had ever loved were destroyed. Fernino and Livia held each other desperately when the steaming lava reached the sea itself. Water began to swell against the side of the boat as it moved slowly out to safety. They had just left in time. Soon, the sea sank back from the shore, and even the fish were stranded there. Many years passed, and the mountain grew cool and still. At first, its slopes were burnt and barren, but in time, plants began to grow as the volcanic soil brought forth its riches once more. Most people had forgotten the buried city. An old man and woman stood in the shade of an orange tree and laid flowers there. Long ago, they had been rescued by the kind captain of the Greek cargo ship, and he had raised them as his own. They were Torino and Livia, saying farewell to those buried under the ash beneath their feet. Won't forget you, they whispered. Would anyone ever find their beloved Pompeii? They wondered. Would anyone ever see its splendid streets? Perhaps, perhaps not. Farinio and Livia walked back to their small house beside the orange grove. For the rest of their days, they would carry a deep sorrow in their hearts. And that's the end of the story. But here is a little bit of background information about Pompeii. So, before the eruption of Mount Vesuvius, Pompeii was a busy, beautiful Roman city where about 15,000 people lived. Now, in those days, during the ancient Roman Empire, Vesuvius appeared green and peaceful. But in August 24 AD 79, a great mushroom-shaped cloud rose from its top, and to everyone's surprise, the volcano began to erupt. Now, Pompeii was nearby. Uh, Day became as dark as night. The ash showered down and the stones fell, covering the streets and houses. Within a few hours, rooftops started to collapse and many people fled. The next morning, clouds of poisonous gas and ash poured down from the volcano, suffocating those who had stayed behind. When the dust had settled, Pompeii and its lovely surroundings, including the neighboring city of Herculaneum, had disappeared beneath a blanket of ash, pumice, and lava. Now, the city, you can actually go and see that today as it was back in, 2,000 odd years ago, nearly now. Because it's become like a Sleeping Beauty's castle. Where the ash has fallen down, the ash has actually preserved this Pompeii in pretty good fashion. It's even preserved the resting place of some animals and people as well. So the city, as time passed, people remembered the city of Pompeii, but they had forgotten where it actually was until in 1748, archaeologists began to find its remains, and along with skeletons of the victims, sometimes in family groups. Soon, Pompeii became famous, and people from far and wide came to see it, and you can go and still see it today. In 1863, the archaeologist Giuseppe Forelli decided to try an experiment. He noticed that where a body had lain in the ash, it had left hollows in the shape of the body that once had been there. So he poured plaster into one body space and waited for it to set. And when the ashes around it were removed, he found that he was left with a plaster cast in the exact shape of the victim's body. Since then, many casts have been made and can be seen in Pompeii. So the ash cloud the ash had sort of silhouetted around the shape of a person, and they were able to fill it up with plaster, and then you get these sort of wonderful casts as an image of how people rested. Now, Vesuvius has not erupted since March 1944, but the volcano is not dead, it's only sleeping. Like all volcanoes, it has given the land around it rich soil that is easy to farm. As in Roman times, the people of modern day Italy have built their homes there. Towns and villages crowd the shores of the Bay of Naples. One day, Vesuvius will erupt again. There's no doubt about that. But now, with modern scientific instruments, they check the volcano every day, and it is hoped that when it does erupt again, everyone will be evacuated, and we can preserve life. Now, Pompeii is not yet fully excavated, but its uncovered remains help us see what a Roman city really did look like and how the Romans lived, worked, and played. So, yeah, if you ever get a chance to have a look, maybe online or in books, type in the city of Pompeii, and you'll come across some wonderful images of the city. Right, that's the end of the week. That's the last lesson for the class text this week. I hope you have a good weekend, and I'll see you next week. Bye bye.